Hi, my name's Chris. I make videos about guitar stuff, and I also interview people who like guitar stuff. This video, I'm interviewing Doug Cower, the founder of Cower Guitars, a boutique guitar company here in California. Their details are going to be in the description box below. And if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me out, and it makes it easier to do videos like this in the future. Without further ado, here's my interview with Doug Cower and a tour of Cower Guitars.
My name is Doug Cower, and I am the owner and the idiot in charge of Cower Guitars. It's my horrible, evil plot to force the world to spell my last name correctly, finally. So my dad was a cabinet maker, and he didn't start off. I think it's maybe the Cower tradition to fall backwards into what we do for a living. And my mom gave me the choice, and my brother the choice every summer vacation. You could go to the shop or you could go to summer school, but you can't be in the same place and you can't be here. And so my brother went one way and I came to the shop, and he's smarter for me than me because he went to extra school and I'm the idiot who started doing this. So yeah, I just grew up doing it with my dad, and I also, I made furniture and built cars and did all that stuff. And one day this piece of maple came in the shop that was really pretty. And I thought, I should build a guitar from this. And he's my father-in-law now. He wasn't at the time; it was just my girlfriend's at the time. I was waiting for that synapse in my brain to connect that, oh, you have woodworked your whole life, and it was my job to kind of program the CNC machine. And so I think he just waited for that connection, and like my birthday came around, and like pickups and parts and stuff had showed up. He's like, you can do this. I mean, this was like 2003 or four. I didn't even have a way to I didn't know there was like a boutique guitar industry. I didn't know there was like a database. The first thing I made, I actually took like a PRS and like essentially traced it out on transparency paper and then stuck that to the monitor and then retraced it digitally because I didn't have I didn't know any other way of doing it at the time. And so I made that guitar and I got it to the point where it was playable. And then I made just enough mistakes that I was like, I'm going to try something else. And then I just kept doing that and then started making Strat and Telly bodies for friends. And, I messed with guitars that I owned or whatever and at the time didn't know what I was doing in that regard. Like I probably screwed those up. But I had built cars and I had woodworked. And so like I had those fundamentals, and then that was kind of where my father-in-law stepped in. He had done light duty repair work. So like he knew how to do fret work, and he knew wiring's kind of wiring, but guitar wiring, there's, how a tone pot, what that's actually doing. For me as with a car background, stuff's either got 12 volts or ground and that's it, and so there's some overlap and a little bit of, how this stuff works a little differently. And like he knew all of that. So the first thing I ever built fully from scratch was what became Banshee, was a Firebird. And like that was the first neck that I had fretted, and he and I had fretted it, and how to do the level and crowning on it, how to fret dress, and first neck that I carved. And because up until that point I was like making bodies but buying necks, or kind of that kind of stuff, kind of the same arc everybody goes through a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I love jazz masters in concept and shape. I hate jazz masters in actual execution. I like them more now, but at the time I was like, it just wasn't my wheelhouse for the trem and the. Though I really actually do like jazz master pickups now, it just wasn't my thing. And I love Les Pauls sonically, and I also don't like them in execution. And I thought, boy, if you could mash these two together, that'd probably be pretty rad. And I made a carved top Les Paul Jazzmaster essentially, and this is the same thing like early aughts, right? Kind of as that became it, like Dennis Fano and I brought that whole thing into the zeitgeist, and people liked it. But I was like, oh, I'm never going to be self-employed. Never. I was a third of the way through my teaching credential. Because I had grown up in my parents' business, it's like, no, I want a job with a steady paycheck and a pension or whatever. And then my wife, I think we were married at this point, or about to be married. We bought our first house, and she was closer to being done with her teaching degree or credential. So she went and finished. I went back to work, and then I think it was the '08. There's either .com or the housing crisis or whatever one just destroyed the economy, and my dad's parents' business also with it. And like we survived obviously, but like there was just no cabinet work to do. So I was building guitars because what else was I going to do with my time? And people started buying asking for daylighters, and I kind of did it. And then I went to my first NAMM show to walk it, and that was kind of the eye opener. Like by this point, I kind of knew there was a thing, but not the scope of like, oh, there is other people who do it successfully, and or at least depend on their wives a little bit less than I do, and still. And so I just kind of fell into it, and I fell in love with the people in the industry more than maybe even the guitars themselves. And eventually, by the second show I had done, I was fully in, and I came home from it, and I quit my job and quit. I was fired so that I could recover the unemployment that I had paid into for years, and it got me through. And then eventually, the next time there was a crisis, because that seems to be a recurring theme in the economy, by that point I was kind of already paying for half the shop anyway, and that sharing the space with my dad's business. And so it got us both through that one. And here I am. He's retired, and the shop is, my shop. I bought it, kind of kept buying it out over the years and slowly taking over it and expanding on it and adding people. And now all we do is guitars and our accessory line, the racks. My dad played guitar, so I always wanted to play guitar. My parents told me if I got good grades, they would get me guitar lessons, and so eventually I gave up and taught myself how to play guitar. It's much easier. But I always wanted to do it, and actually I give all the credit on this because of where I live specifically. So the town we're in is Elk Grove, where I grew up. If you're not from the area, it used to be a tiny little town that was the suburb of Sacramento, and there used to be distance between, there was an actual gap between those two things. So now you can't tell, they're not the same. But the middle school I went to had arguably the best band program in the district, whatever, best you could possibly hope for. I was hopeless before that. I went through that, and played trombone, and that was what it needed for like the concept of music, how to play it, and so then I actually taught myself how to play bass first, and then I started playing guitar like right around my 8th grade freshman year, and if I hadn't been in that program, I wouldn't be doing this. And like, and then my high school band teacher, he's still a family friend. Like the guy's awesome. Jay plays trumpet. He's unbelievable. But he also played in a band with who became my in-laws, who were like the local band, and they were all teachers. And so my high school band, or like blues rock band, we would get gigs at events in town, and they would also be playing. They would be like the main, like the real band, and we always had this weird overlap. And I actually met my wife right at the end of high school. I'm like, I knew her parents first because of like the band overlap. I knew her brother because we had classes together. Like, it was this weird, very Oak Grove connection. But yeah, I just grew up, I wanted to do it, and that band program is what made this happen, to be honest. I don't have a design background. I famously cannot draw by hand. Had I not taken AutoCAD to avoid taking calculus in high school, I wouldn't be here right now. I have a good sense I think, for my taste in design, and that either hits with somebody or it doesn't. And that was kind of something I learned very quickly with like going to guitar shows. You can't design something, or at this point, the opportunity to design something that's going to hit everybody. That doesn't exist, and that doesn't even exist. Even Strat people aren't necessarily Les Paul people, or what. There's always that kind of thing too. But like, the thing I've learned from when I'm designing something new, if it comes together in a day, it's good. If I fight with it for more than a few days, it never ends up being. And it's sometimes like Electroliner was kind of that thing where I had a version of that drawn, and I liked it, but I couldn't put my finger on why I didn't love it. And then it just sat shelved for like 2 years, honestly. And we were so busy because I kind of drew it right before the pandemic. So it was just kind of shelved. And then I came back to it and looked at it one day and I was like, what if I just section in the middle? I think it's too long. And then that was okay, now I like it. And what became Starliner, I actually had 2 designs. I had designed something else first, and it was that same, but I couldn't put my finger on it, but I didn't like it, and I kept trying to force it and force it and force it, and ultimately I just literally scrapped it, deleted the thing, started from scratch, and Starliner came about in like an hour. Like, it was like, oh, that's where I want to be.
So what is next for you and Kauer Guitars?
No idea.
Like, please don't ask me that question.
Honestly, I don't know. Right now, the shop is in a good spot. We went through the pandemic. We survived all that. When it slowed down for the industry, it slowed down very quickly. We survived that, and it took a while. And the shop's in a good place where we own it all again. We're the last piece of equipment we were still making payments on, that's rolled off. So we're just going to kind of enjoy keeping it here and try to just kind of consistently focus on. That's the thing I think that gets people in trouble, is growing too fast. And again, this relates to being able to say no or be realistic about how you can do. We just want to maintain a nice even keel for growth and continue to train, add people if needed, or add the tool or that piece of the puzzle that it's almost like guitar building is not all that difficult. The secret is in, hey, how are you doing this? And I made this tool and that made this way. Okay. And like, so just that little thing of like, all right, how do we make this thing better, not necessarily faster, but faster usually means more efficiently, which in my mind makes it better. Because if you're struggling on a step, you don't do the best job you can. Just kind of keep plugging away at that on a new model, new design. And I have no idea, Griffin, I was on a kind of a mental block for honestly a couple years, and then Griffin came about, and I would be real happy to just make Griffins for the next 2 years. And, you know, I'd like to make them for the next 20 years, but, you know, right now I don't know what would become next. I think we got a nice little kind of sample of things, and we tend to bring some models in and out of the lineup. Like we haven't made Daylighter in a few years now. When we've been talking about maybe doing a little limited run of like one particular version we really like. I don't know. We'll see. That's future Doug's problem. I don't know.
I'm living for this day.
Yeah. I want to work less. That's my goal.
Love it. So where's the best place for folks to find you and shop?
CowerGuitars.com, at CowerGuitars on Instagram. We're sort of on TikTok. Instagram's kind of my wheelhouse still. It seems to be the right place for me. So we're really active on there primarily. So, but yeah, our website and you know all the normal places. We'll hopefully start seeing shows coming back, and so I can start traveling again and showing up places. But we got pretty decent dealer coverage now, so you can get lucky hopefully and see some in person and find out that we're the catfishing of the guitar world in real life. So
Love it. Awesome. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.